A Holmes County man will get a new trial for capital murder and armed robbery. 36-year-old Calvin Gibson was convicted and sentenced to life in the 2024 capital murder and armed robbery case. Now, in an appeal to the state Supreme Court, Gibson says his right to a speedy trial was violated. Insufficient evidence was presented to support his convictions, and the court allowed hearsay testimony. He also alleges prosecutorial misconduct. Gibson was convicted in the death of 29-year-old Brandon Cooper in February 2018. The state Supreme Court reverses Gibson's convictions and orders a new trial. Cooper was the son of an older woman in Lexington.